Hey everyone, it's Waterloo from SimpleFlight.net. I'm also a lieutenant governor here in the North Central region for COPA, and I'm a CSIP here in the Chicagoland area. But anyway, I'm here to help. We've got a great flyout coming up to the St. Louis Lambert Airport. That's STL. And the flyout's going to be on March 29th, 2014. Now, the big thing about this one, it's going to be great. It should be a lot of fun, but there's a little bit of a challenge to it. St. Louis Lambert is a Class B airport. Now, I know a lot of people said that in their surveys that they don't like going into Class Bs or they might be intimidated by it, but let me tell you, and I'm going to walk you through step by step how to get in and show you that it's as easy as pie. So, don't believe me? Well, just try it out for yourself, and it's going to be easy as can be. So, I'm going to walk you through on what frequencies to look up, when to call St. Louis approach, when you should expect to hear your clearance into the Class Bravo airspace, and tell you some strategy on how to set up your iPad in ForeFlight specifically on how to be able to maneuver on the ground, taxi, and get to where our event's going to be held, which the parking will be at the Signature Flight Support. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get cracking. All right. So here we are. We've got ForeFlight set up, and here is the St. Louis airport, or the St. Louis area, forgive me. So first thing I'm going to do is if I'm going to go ahead and ForeFlight and load the two airports that I'm going to be flying to. So this would be, in this case, Lansing, Illinois to KSTL, St. Louis Lambert. There you go. So I'm going to draw a line here. Now, well, right as you can see right now, it's IFR, but we'll turn that off. Anyway, so if you're going to fly IFR into St. Louis Lambert, by all means do so. It's going to be super easy for you to do, and it's not going to be too difficult. The approach is going to let you right in, and the best thing is you don't need to hear cleared into the Class Bravo. Once you pick up your clearance on the ground, wherever you're at, and they say cleared as filed or cleared via whatever, that is your clearance into the Class B airspace. So it's just like you're flying straight along and you land. So it's not that big of a deal. But if you're going VFR, it might pose a little bit more intimidation, but we're going to work through each step of the way. So, all right, so if I'm out flying from Lansing, IGQ, and going all the way down to St. Louis Lambert, there's a couple things that I can do. The next easiest option, if I can't file IFR because I'm not current, or if I don't have an instrument rating, or you're just not comfortable, well, we can go VFR. So the easiest way to get into St. Louis Lambert is to request flight following right after you take off. If you can request VFR flight following and say that your destination is St. Louis Lambert, KSTL, Sierra Tango Lima, they're going to put you into the system, and as you get handed off all the way down the line, you're going to be sequenced into St. Louis. And once you get handed off to St. Louis Approach, the St. Louis Approach is already knowing that you're going to want to land in St. Louis at the Lambert Airport. So they're going to just clear you into the Bravo airspace. So it's really not that difficult. Getting into the Bravo is just a formality. And let me tell you, as intimidating as this airspace looks, it's really quite easy to get into. It's not that busy. This is a sleepy Class B airport. In fact, probably a lot of the Class Deltas that you fly into could be just as busy as St. Louis, if not busier. So I know here where I do a lot of my flying at Palwaukee, the Chicago Executive Airport, the Chicago Executive Airport is certainly a lot busier than St. Louis, believe it or not. But anyway, so let's see here. So let's say I'm going to be flying, I'm not picking up VFR flight following, I'm not filing IFR, and I'm just going to show up to St. Louis. Well, I can still do that and get in with relative ease. All right. So as I depart out of Lansing, Illinois, I'll start my flight and I'll continue all the way down. All right. So now as I start getting into the St. Louis region, I'm going to end up starting to see St. Louis here. All right. So now we're on ForeFlight. All right, so there's a little white box here that represents on the sectional, and what this white box represents, hopefully you can see the pen being drawn, But this white box right here is what I'm talking about. This is kind of the boundary for the TAC chart, so the St. Louis Terminal Area Chart. Now, the cool thing about ForeFlight is they have these built in. All you have to do is just keep zooming in and see how the map switches. You can see it right here, right in the middle of the screen on ForeFlight. As you zoom in, your sectional is on this side, and then your TAC is right below this white line in this area. So you can see as I move and zoom out, now I'm in the sectional. Now as there's the ruler pops up. As I zoom in, the TAC chart comes on. And this is important. We need to zoom in enough where the TAC chart comes in. Why? Because it's going to tell us, the TAC chart is going to tell us which frequency we need to call St. Louis approach. So as I'm coming in from the northeast here, I'm going to start looking for a little white box that says CTC St. Louis approach. So here we go, right here. Contact St. Louis approach on 124.2. So once I get into this general vicinity, 30 miles outside of St. Louis Lambert, I can call up St. Louis approach on that 124.2 frequency and end up asking for clearance into, we're landing at the St. Louis Lambert Airport. At that point, they'll give you a squawk code, so you'll squawk, possibly ident, and St. Louis approach will give you radar contact, and then we'll sequence you in for arrival into St. Louis Lambert. Don't be surprised if they give you a descent and wait a few minutes before they give you your clearance into the Class Bravo airspace. But other than that, it's just as simple as that. So if I were coming in from the south side or the southeast side, I can do the same thing. So here was this original 124.2, the contact St. Louis approach. On all pretty much quadrants of the TAC chart, that box should exist. So as I scroll down here, I'm going to see one right here. That's a good circle. So right here, it's contact St. Louis approach on 124.2. As I keep scrolling down to the south here, I'm still looking for another white box. Here's another one. Contact St. Louis approach on 126.5 if I'm coming in from the south. And then finally on the west, here's another one. Contact St. Louis approach on 126.5. So if you're coming from the south or the west, 126.5 is your frequency to call St. Louis approach. If you're coming from the north or the east, 124.2 is going to be the frequency that you use. So far that's pretty easy. Now, if you're, like I said, if you're going to be flying IFR, you don't really have to worry about this. If you're going to be flying VFR with picking up flight following at some point along your route, asking for your destination to be St. Louis Lambert, all this is pretty much going to be taken care of for you. But if you're going to be flying VFR, not doing flight following, and you just show up in the St. Louis airspace, 124.2 from the north or the east is going to be your frequency that you call in on. Or if you're going to be coming from the west or the south, 126.5. Those are your magic numbers there. So when you call up St. Louis approach, make sure before you call up you dial in the ATIS frequency and listen to the ATIS. So in order to do that, we can either zoom in on the St. Louis Lambert sectional here, or the TAC chart, excuse me, and we can look up the ATIS frequency, which is 125.02, or if we use ForeFlight, we can go to our airport tabs, and this is how I would do it. I'd go to my airport tabs, look up KSTL, there we go, and then I would add it with the little star. You can see where the star is. I'd make sure the star is filled in so that it's added to my favorite airports. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up my favorite airports section. I always keep this clean for the flights that I'm doing in a particular day, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the other airports that I'm not using for that flight and just and keep that stable and set in there. The reason why I do that is that a lot of people usually have this long list of airports set on here in their favorites, and that is, once you get too many, it almost becomes too cluttered and you can't find the airport that you want. So I would clean all my favorites up and just add St. Louis Lambert to my favorites just by hitting the star right there. Okay, so before we call St. Louis approach, we look up our ATIS frequency, 125.02, and we're going to listen. Now, I'm going to ask you to use a little caution or listen up when you listen to the ATIS here, because it's going to be a computer voice, one of those guys that might be a little hard of hearing, and unless you're used to listening to that kind of computer voice talking or speaking the ATIS, it might take you a few times to get the ATIS. That's okay. So, but make sure that you listen to it carefully, listen to which runways they're going to be using, and kind of the flow of the airport, which will be nice. So, anyway, moving on here, another thing that's nice is to, on this airport tab page, is to, one, figure out, click this little top, little white airport diagram in the top left corner here, and you're going to start to see where the layout of the airport and where we're going to be parking. Now, you're going to be parking here at the signature flight support, which is right off of 30 right and 12 left. So the nice thing is that to minimize the amount of taxi time and confusion of taxiing around on crazy on the airport layout and everything, if they're using runway 30 using the 30s, the 30 parallels, ask for 30 right, because that's going to give you the shortest taxi to signature if they don't already assign that to you. So when they're using 30 left or 30 right in the ATIS, ask the approach controller for 30 right, and they'll gladly give it to you, because that will minimize on your taxi time. If they're landing on 12 right or 12 left, make sure that you ask for runway 12 left. That way, that will minimize the taxi time as well. So approach controllers, they want to help you get to where you need to go on the ground, and they're going to assign you a runway accordingly. But if they don't give you 30 right or 12 left, make sure you ask for it, and then they'll help you. They'll give that to you. So we got that. All right. So I've got my airport and my airport tab on ForeFlight. I've got St. Louis Lambert filled in. I've got I've got my frequencies here. I've got ATIS, clearance, ground. Now it looks like there's a ton of ground control frequencies. Well, this is probably going to be your ground control frequency right here. And I've actually had it where the approach controller will assign you the tower frequency, and it's probably going to be either 118.5 or 120.05. So that could be the only oddity. Just listen up and be prepared for a transfer over to one of those frequencies. And if I were to put money on it, it might be 120.05. That will be your tower frequency. Okay. Now, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add something to my plate binder. So I'm going to go to the Plates tab in ForeFlight, and just like I did with my airport favorites, I'm going to clear out all the approach plates that I don't need for this particular flight. I only keep the one set of approach plates in my binders at a time. Just one set for the flights that I'm doing for that day. Otherwise, it can get too convoluted and it can get too confusing. So I'm going to name this one STL. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to delete SBP. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit tap to add plates. So the little gray box here, I'm going to hit tap to add plates. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to find STL. If you don't see STL in here, you can always search it by your airport. But because we added it in our favorites, So we can click this one right here, from favorite airports, KSTL. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the airport diagram, and that should be it for if I'm flying VFR. All right. So I'm going to take a look at it. I'll flip it around here, and what I'm going to do, one of the nifty features in ForeFlight is that it now allows you to draw a little pen or draw with your finger like a highlighter or something. So what I would do with this is highlight your chart, your taxiway diagram beforehand, before you even take off to go to St. Louis. So the way to do that, I would first start off highlighting where we're going to park. So in order to figure out where we're going to park, we already said that we're going to go to Signature Flight Support, but in case we forgot to remember or we don't remember where it is on the airport, we can go back to our airport tab and click our little airport diagram here and see that Signature Flight Support is right here off the corner of 30 right and 12 left. Okay? So I'm going to come over here, and here's 30 right here, and here's 12 left. It's hard to see, but there's where it says 12 left. All right. So here's general aviation parking. That's where Signature Flight Support is, and it's parked right there. So what I'm going to do with ForeFlight is I am going to take my pen function, which is up here, right at the top kind of left function. So I'm going to. It goes close. There's a clock symbol, and then there's a pen button. So I'm going to click that. You click the pencil, and over here at the top you're going to see like a color. So I can click the color, change the opacity and the thickness of it. I always like the thickness of mine somewhere between 25 and 30 px, and I always make sure that I pick like a bright green or red color. So this page right here, you can scroll through it by swiping your finger to the left or to the right. So I'm going to pick a bright green color. So here is where Signature Flight Support is. That's where I'm going to be taxiing, and hopefully I can either get 30 right or 12 left. And if I land on 12 left, I could just take Kilo, get off at Kilo, and come in, which would be really easy. Or here's Signature again, and I can land 30 right, get off at Kilo, and taxi in, or I can get off at Lima and taxi in. So let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Excuse me. So let's do that one more time. So here's 12 left, 30 right, and if I'm coming in 30 right, I come in, land, make a right at Kilo, and then come in through there, or I can take 12 left, come in off a Kilo, maybe Foxtrot to Foxtrot 4, and come in. So it really should be a simple taxi process in order to get in. Remember, if you've got Avidyne or and you've got the charts in there, you can load up your taxiway diagram through using your Avidyne system, or if you're in the perspective system, you can zoom in once you land, zoom in on your GPS map, or pull up the JEP chart for that, and you'll be able to see yourself taxiing around a little bit better. So that should be pretty much it. Now the only thing is, if you get runway 12 left, be very careful that when you approach and come in for landing runway 12 left, that you know exactly which runway which piece of pavement is 12 left. So as you can see here, as I zoom in, there's a couple different types of pavement that kind of parallel the runway, which may make it a little difficult to see. So here's taxiway Foxtrot, taxiway Echo, here's 12 right. All these pieces, make sure that you get a good visual on runway 12 left. If you don't see it, just ask the tower controller or the approach controller, and they'll be gladly to help you. If you don't see it, just ask. It's not going to hurt anything. So anyway, this should be a really great trip to come in. So real quick, as a quick summary, If we were to come in from the north or the east, the approach control frequency that you're going to use is 124.2. Or if you're coming in from the south or the west, the approach control frequency that you're going to use is 126.5. Remember, it's just a quickly FAR reminder for Class B operations. This is something that that we need to just be aware of before we go in. It might be a good thing to review, and that's 91-131, and just talk about the couple different things you need to have in order to get into the Class B. You must receive an ATC clearance, so you must hear cleared into the Bravo if you're going VFR. If you're IFR, you're not going to hear cleared into the Bravo. You're going to get cleared into the Bravo once you pick up your clearance, your IFR clearance to get in. So that's one. We have an ATC clearance. We're not a large turbine airplane. I wish we were. That'd be a lot of fun. You must comply with any ATC procedures or clearances that they give you. And if we scroll down just one bit more, we need to have according to 91-215, a transponder with Mode C broadcasting capabilities. So for a quick reminder on that, you can always just go to ecfr.gov and look up 91.131. If anybody has any questions or want some one-on-one time with me to walk you through, please let me know. My name is Awaterloo. You can go to my website, SimpleFlight.net, or you can send me an email, awaterloo@gmail.com, and I'll gladly help you get through this one by one, and it will be really easy. Once you do it once, you're going to love flying into a Class B airport. They're actually pretty friendly places to land, and it's a great sense of accomplishment. So we'll see you March 29th at the St. Louis Lambert Airport, parking at Signature Flight Support. And remember, awaterloo@gmail.com. Best way to reach out to me if you need some extra help. Anyway, we'll see you there. It'll be a great time, and have fun.